Hello, hello, it's Trudy, One Grounded Angel. This is an angel card reading for the week starting the 18th of October through to the 24th of October 2021. Two great things happening this week. One is the end of Mercury retrograde on Monday the 18th. Thank goodness. And then the second thing is we have a full moon in the sign of Aries happening on Thursday, the 21st. So that's exciting. Aries is a very gung-ho sign. So this is a great time for you to be doing something bold, letting go of something that's really scary. Aries is very entrepreneurial, so a great time to be making changes in your business if you are self-employed or thinking about becoming self-employed. It's a really bold sign. It can be a little bit temper tantrumy. Who isn't, frankly? So it might be a good time to watch your emotions. If you feel that the emotions are heightened, make sure you're not being tipped into that kind of tendency, I guess, to go overboard with, to go into reaction rather than responding. Reaction means knee-jerk. We're jumping straight in. Responding is we've taken a beat, we've thought about it, and we've figured out how we're going to respond to a situation. It's a little bit more present, that respond thing. Anyway, I will shuffle. I've just realised I've gone out of order here, but that doesn't mean anything to you. So I'll shuffle for Monday now, the 18th of October, and see what is going to come up. Oh, we have two cards. Whew, they're big. Okay, so Yamana, this is a golden opportunity. Love seeing the dolphin here. Very spiritually aware, intelligent animal. Also got Kuan Yin, compassion. So we'll start with this one. Golden opportunity. Obviously that does signal there could be good things coming your way. Sometimes we often forget that we've got a role to play in that. If something is in front of us, it does require us to have the courage to actually walk through the door. So there may be a message here, not just about what's going to happen, but about what you need to do. Is there something significant in front of you that you need to take action on? Now, that doesn't mean jumping straight in. We need to do our due diligence. We are still in Mercury retrograde, on Monday. And don't forget, there's a post-retrograde shadow where we can still feel the effects. So Mercury being the planet of detail, still an important time to pay attention to detail and do our research. But yeah, so it's all about encouraging us to take action. It can simply serve as reassurance if that's what you're needing right now, that things will get better. But don't forget, we've got a role to play in that. Kuan Yin, compassion, always a beautiful message to see. This is about judgment, my old friend. So the card says, release judgments about yourself and others and focus on the light and love that is within everyone. So there's always two ways to read a message about compassion. It's about yourself, or it can be about other people. So are you beating yourself up? Are you hauling yourself over the coals? How many cliches can I bust out here? Are you really giving yourself a hard time when in fact what you need to practice is self-compassion? We respond better to self-compassion than we do to self-criticism. Think about it. When someone criticizes you, does it make you want to change? No, it makes you feel crap and not do anything about the problem. Want to stick your head in the sand. There's another cliche. And it's not motivating at all. It makes you feel really bad and makes you want to give up. So self-compassion is really nurturing and nourishing, and it makes you really think about, what do I want to do here? It can really empower you as well. Maybe not straight away, but it's sowing the seeds for that. So that's something to think about. And of course, we have to think about others as well. Very high tensions running at the moment. Maybe that depends on where you live, but certainly here in Australia, it's really easy to go into judgment right now. I know I certainly am and have been. It's something I really have to police. There is a myth that the more evolved and spiritual, the further you go on your spiritual journey, the better you'll be able to, you won't be judgmental. You'll be this really total Zen being, and I call BS on that. We are humans. We are souls in a human body. We are going to be provoked by things. That's just the deal. And our souls came here to learn. This is the Earth School. And so we're not going to learn in a vacuum. We need to be exposed to these situations to learn. So please don't think that because you are being provoked or that you're going into fear that means that you've failed or that you're you're going backwards. It doesn't at all. It just means you're human, and we're all going through that. So that's not a problem to overcome. It's just a normal situation you're going through. And as I said earlier, the more you can take a beat before you respond, the better. But it's not always easy. So please don't go into beating yourself up if you are jumping into criticism and judgment of other people. The thing we have to remember is that everyone is doing the best they can, and they may be making choices that you don't agree with, but that's not a reason for us to demonize them. I know it's hard, and I know it's complicated, and I know that the human part of us that wants to be safe wants to have control by having everybody doing things the way we're doing things, or everybody responding to or acting in accordance with our expectations. This is a big thing for me. But that's not how we become safe. Safety is by being able to accept that we have the ability to keep ourselves safe, and that is our responsibility. Self-responsibility is a big theme in certainly the version of spirituality that I'm on about, and it is an ongoing process. So, I've talked about that enough. Tuesday's card is super appropriate, vacuum away fear. The word vacuum is great. Isn't it just wonderful to think of being able to run some sort of appliance over your fear and it just disappears? Sadly, it's not true. It's not that simple. I mean, maybe in some cases it could be, but the types of fears that this card really speaks to are the deep stuff, the really perhaps subconscious, or the really long-running themes of fear. Maybe fear of failure would be a good example for some of you, or fear that you're not good enough. That shows up for a lot of people I work with. And this certainly isn't saying just ask for it to go away and spirit will take care of it. Alas, not that simple. But we can certainly be working with spirit to help us address those fears. And maybe that's what you need to be thinking about here is, maybe I can stop trying to pretend this fear doesn't exist and actually maybe step forward on my journey to working out a way to coexist with it. Fear doesn't go away. It's always going to be there. The thing that we're learning, or the aim for us, is to be able to turn down the volume on that trigger so that we're not going straight into the reaction. We're able to respond. Will it still trigger us? Will we still be afraid? Yes. I personally do not believe that fear ever goes away. And I do not personally believe that we should stick our head in the sands and pretend that the fear doesn't exist, or that the threat that we're seeing isn't real. You know that, I need to write a post about this because it's coming up a lot lately. You know how you can see a lot of posts of the word fear broken down into false evidence appearing real. Sometimes that can be helpful, but what I find is that it doesn't matter whether the threat is real or not. So we can't just go, oh, that whole climate change thing, that doesn't exist. I'm just not going to, it's not convenient for me to think about, so I'm going to tell myself that doesn't exist, and then I can go on and not have any fear. That's not really the most helpful way to deal with the risk. The threat is still there. You've just pretended it's not. What we need to do is, how can I take back my power in this situation? What are the things that I can do here? It might be about me practicing some acceptance or learning some better coping mechanisms, or in the case of a big issue like climate change, and I'm aware I've made a big jump there. That's quite a big fear I just pulled out. But what can I do? How can I get involved in this? What can I do about this situation? It may seem too big, but even small things I can do will make me feel better, make me feel like I'm part of the solution instead of just hoping the problem goes away. Massive, massive tangent. And we're at 9 minutes already, and I'm only on Tuesday. So look at the fear, and remember that fear can wear a disguise. It can show up in lots of ways that we don't think of. We think of fear as being a real anxious response, and certainly it can be and often is, but it can also be something that shows up as procrastination, such as trying to avoidance. That's a big one. Denial, all sorts of things. Maybe these are not fear as such, as so much as responses to fear, or ways that we're trying to deal with the fear. But we need to recognize the fear for what it is. And sometimes fear tells us that if we look at it, we look it straight in the eyes, that something terrible is going to happen to us. But unfortunately, we can't really deal with a problem unless we look it square in the face. And often we find it's not that it's not as bad as we thought, but it is much easier it's not as hard to tackle as what we thought it would be when we were trying to, oh no, I'm not going to look at that thing over there, it's too hard. Okay, I've gone off on a massive tangent, so I need to pull this back in. Let's go to Wednesday. Wednesday the 21st? Wednesday the 20th. Be gentle with yourself. This is Wednesday. This is from the Archangel Michael card deck. Love is a lamb there. If that doesn't say gentle, I don't know what does. I spoke before about self-compassion, and this is very much in line with that message. Certainly about nurturing ourselves, definitely about ourselves primarily. Although, by all means, if you feel this is speaking to the way you interact with others, that can certainly be relevant here as well. As always, you've got to go with what resonates with you, the situation that's coming up in your mind when you think about this idea. So being really kind to ourselves. And even if you don't feel like you're really beating yourself up at the moment, or you haven't noticed that you're being super critical, maybe it's more about practical things in terms of being gentle. Maybe you need to choose to do something nourishing for yourself, like take yourself off for a walk in the bush, or take yourself away from a loud environment and just have some stillness to yourself. Something gentle, playing some soft music, or choosing not to engage in a particular discussion that's going on. As always, trust your intuition, but certainly there's lots of ways that idea of being gentle with ourselves can be relevant. So I'm shuffling now for Thursday, and perhaps it can be a mixture of both practical and emotional and mental. Thursday's card is exceeding expectations. Is this not the most Aries message you've ever seen? Aries is very much I can do this. I've got that real toddler kind of energy of I'll do what I want. And obviously there are positive and negative ways to think about that. But certainly let's look at the positive of I can take this on. I can exceed expectations. Maybe the expectations are my own. Often we think that other people are wanting us to fail, that other people don't think we're good enough. Most people are not even thinking about you, they're thinking about themselves anyway. But the story that we tell ourselves is really just an extension of how we feel about ourselves. We are the ones who need convincing that we are good enough, not other people. I soar into excellence is what it says. So maybe this is just about raising your expectations for yourself, making sure you're not playing small, making sure that your goals are not too easy for you, and making sure that you are responding in a way that is appropriate, rather than, a way that you feel is going to keep you safe, I guess. And when I say keep you safe, I don't mean that, if you need to retreat from a situation to give yourself that safety, that's okay. You've got to respond in the way that feels best for you. But I think that what I mean by that is we're not trying to keep ourselves safe by avoiding something that we really need to do. For example, if there's a job that's actually really appropriate for you and you're trying to convince yourself that I'm not right for that, when you actually do want it, you're just scared of maybe failing, or you're scared about what people will think, or whatever the fear is. If you're trying to talk yourself out of something in order to keep yourself safe from risk, maybe look at that. I've gone off on a tangent there, but I'm sure you get what I'm trying to say, or I hope you do. Friday here we've got acceptance. Beautiful. This is so on point. I unconditionally accept, cherish, and love myself just as I am. If you've been following my work for a while, you are probably aware that self-love is not a message that I talk about a lot. And that's not because I think there's something wrong with it. I think it's a beautiful message and certainly something that we could all benefit from. But I also think self-love is pretty tough for a lot of us. It's too great a leap from where we are to get to self-love. Instead, I'm more about self-like, if you could call it that. Not quite as catchy, is it? But I would certainly focus on trying to be a friend to yourself rather than trying to put yourself on a pedestal, bump yourself up if that's too hard. Just trying to be gentle with yourself, I think, is a more realistic goal, in the interim at least, rather than trying to, say, I love myself. There is some wonderful writing about mirror work. I think Louise Hay was a wonderful proponent of this. However, looking in the mirror and saying I love you is not for everybody. particularly if you're from a society where that idea of self-love is going to be associated with arrogance. It's not, and it's certainly not what Louise Hay is talking about there. She's talking about really sending beautiful love to ourselves. But for some people, it's really hard to extricate that idea of arrogance or who do you think you are that would come up around that idea. So that's why I personally don't talk about it. However, I know it can be wonderful. For so many people, self-love can be a really great practice. So if that's your bag, by all means go for it. For everyone who doesn't feel that's quite the right fit for them, or everyone who tried to do self-love and found it just didn't work, it's me, maybe look at self-acceptance instead, or self-compassion. Just trying to accept yourself. And often that's interwoven with perfectionism. People are trying to be perfect, and it's really... and that's what comes up with the self-love. They feel they can't love themselves because they're not perfect. And so sometimes we need to look at our expectations and our ability to accept ourselves as human and understand that that actually is perfect in a spiritual sense. Perfect doesn't mean without flaws. It means everything's already starting from a point of being exactly as it needs to be. And our work here is to improve on that, rather than trying to change everything because it's broken. That's not the deal. We're not a flawed masterpiece. I've seen that written somewhere. It's not my work, but I am using it. You're not a flawed masterpiece. You're a work in progress, and the aim is to work your whole life to try and get better. And the pursuit of that is worthy. It is worth doing, even if it doesn't work out so well. We can't just accept where we're at. Well, we can. It's a good place to start, but we can't just say that that's the best it's going to get. We can always, strive for more, not because we're broken, but because it would be a bonus, and it's a worthy goal, self-improvement. Massive tangent as per usual. Here we have Saturday, shower of abundance. We've had a message about finances for quite a while, so this is interesting. So what I'd encourage you to think about here is, what does abundance mean to me? For a lot of you, it will be money, and absolutely that's worthy of your consideration. In spiritual terms, we think of money as something that we have a relationship with. It's not an end goal, but it is something that needs to be in flow. We need to be in flow with abundance, not to have a ton of money, but to be able to use money and to be able to have good things and nourish ourselves and all of that and prosper. It's not about greed or anything like that. So look at your life and look at whereabouts there is lack or there is less than what you would perhaps be comfortable with. And maybe in love, maybe it's not about money at all. Maybe there's not enough abundance and support. The idea of support, are you lacking the support? Those sorts of things are worth thinking about. I think almost everybody I work with, have worked with, will probably ever work with, including myself, is lacking the ability to trust that they are safe with where they are right now. And we have to start with that space of feeling like we are safe before we can really do that deeper work. We don't have to, but it's helpful, I think. Now, if you do want to look at that message in terms of money, there are some great abundance coaches, mindset coaches can be great with this. I personally can't recommend any because I don't know of them, but you can always ask Spirit to guide you to the right healer or coach or expert for a particular situation if that's something that you want to do. So ask Spirit to guide you to the right person for your needs, someone you can afford, someone who's available to you. And ask Spirit to make it really clear to you when you've found that right person, so you can easily understand the guidance that you're being directed to. Okay, at a basic level as well, I should say, you can also look at your beliefs around money. Is there some healing to do there? Are there some changes that need to be made in the way that you are spending money at the moment? For example, you're trying to spend money to impress people. Those aren't the sort of people I tend to attract here, but sometimes it happens. Are you trying to throw money at other people to try and fix their problems or save them in some way? All those sorts of things can come up. So, something to think about. Sunday. Don't know what happened there. Wise soul. Beautiful azalea on here. Your soul carries ancient wisdom. Please embrace it as you have the knowledge to help those around you. Often in popular culture, the idea of old soul or wise soul is used. It's kind of bandied around quite loosely. The ultimate truth is, at least in my mind, my understanding is that we're all old souls. We've all had tons and tons of past lives. It's not just certain evolved people who've had past life experiences. Very few of us are new here. So I just put that out there to start with. Wise soul is about the wisdom of that soul that maybe has gathered wisdom across many lifetimes, maybe has gathered wisdom through experiences you've had in this lifetime, whatever it is. It's about trusting that what Glennon Doyle calls the knowingness within you, the part of you that already knows what is right for you, the right choice for you, the right course of action to take, trusting that. The problem is that can be hard to do because we've got the voice of fear going on as well, that egoic messages saying, you just made that up, that's not true, or people will think you're crazy if you do that, all those sort of things that go on. And yes, I still have those issues too. It doesn't matter how spiritual you are, we all have fear-based messages coming up, egoic messages. And the aim is not to get to a point where you never have that, because that's not realistic. So trust the wisdom. You could just take this simply as a message to trust the intuitive messages you've been getting lately. This is confirming that they are accurate. And it could be asking you, those of you who are getting a deeper calling to do something in the way of your life purpose. Maybe you're being called to share your story with people, or you're being called to do a particular passion project or some sort of creative endeavour. I don't know, whatever it is, you're being called to follow that knowingness, the part of you that knows you need to make some changes. Perhaps you're getting, this is quite challenging for some of you, but perhaps you're getting called to leave a relationship or leave a particular job. Really hard and scary. Get some support if you need it. If the fear stuff is really super strong, to help you manage the fear. And I should say also, on the note of fear, sometimes it comes up because we're actually on the right track. The ego's getting provoked because it knows that you're doing something that you need to be doing, and that's going to be scary because things won't be as under control as what they have been. Of course, we never really had control. It was all an illusion anyway, but that's a conversation for another time. Really trust what's coming through for you. What is your wisdom telling you about this situation? And don't forget, you can always ask for a sign if you need confirmation that what you've been receiving intuitively is accurate for you. So interesting here, we've got some messages around our relationships with ourselves, around self-compassion, letting go of self-criticism, and looking at how we can empower ourselves to make necessary changes, self-responsibility, and just starting from a space of that compassion. Really beautiful message there. We've also got two messages telling us to strive for more and be bold and really move ahead with what we want to work on. Interesting combination there, but of course, as we know, if we want to make big changes, having a start that is a place of self-compassion and the courage. That's a pretty powerful combination, right? Who knows what you could achieve with that? So definitely something worth striving towards. If you need help, don't forget you can find me at my website, www.onegroundedangel.com. That's my website. You can find information about how to work with me there, and you can book with me. That is the only way to work with me, is to fill out a booking form on my website. I do not approach people on Instagram. If you've been approached by someone on Instagram pretending to be me, it ain't me. I don't do financial transactions or approach people on Instagram. My Instagram work is just about sharing my work and telling you about what I do, sharing these cards each day. I do not pester people to work with me. That's not appropriate for me. What I do is talk about the work. If you feel motivated to work with me, you need to reach out to me via that website, onegroundedangel.com. And my official Instagram account, the one that is real, is at onegroundedangel. Please do not be sucked in by these fakes. I've had a couple of people lost money due to scammers, and it's devastating for me, really devastating. So all I can do, I don't have a lot of power in this situation, but all I can do is urge you to do your due diligence, and you must book via my website. I also have a Facebook page, that's One Grounded Angel as well. Also don't do any financial transactions via Facebook as well. So just bear that in mind, the best way to reach me via that website. I'm signing off now. I've talked far too much for far too long, but I hope you've got something useful out of it. Thank you for being here. Thanks for being with me on the journey, and have a great week.